Hey, Heather.
Hey Mike, how are you today?
Good in yourself?
Doing good. What's new with you?
Well, since the last live stream, I went on a 10-day trip to Washington, which was
Oh,
great. And yeah, the last one was, yeah. So, yeah, I had a good time in Washington. And otherwise, I'm doing good, not too much new.
okay. And then for those watching, let us know how are you guys doing? What's new with you? Also, if you have any questions that you want to ask Mike, please put it in the live chat, and we will order them in the answer that they are received. What kind of things did you see and do when you went to Washington?
Yeah, so I went to a wedding in Olympia, and then we went to Roslyn, Washington, which was where the show Northern Exposure was filmed, and then we went to
Ooh,
Leavenworth, which is kind of a cheesy German town, and then we did one day in Seattle, and then 3 days on Orcas Island, and then went home.
that sounds like fun.
Yeah. So, do you have anything to report, Heather?
No,
How
nothing
are you?
really. Doing good, doing good. I thought I'd show off my new shirt that I got, so I was pretty
Yeah.
excited about having that.
Yep. Nice outfit.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Um, do we have any trivia for today?
Yes. Today we have Calvin and Hobbes trivia.
Oh, I love it. What's the first question?
The first question is whose popularity did Calvin track with approval rating polls?
Okay, so if you guys know the answer to that, put that in the chat. And while we are waiting for people to answer that trivia question, we will go to your questions. First one is from Paul, who says, "Welcome back. Was the Mirage closing a worthwhile advantage play? Many casinos have closed or switched hands. Were similar unloadings of progressives offered?"
Good question. So I left for Washington in the middle of that promotional period where they were giving away all this progressive money, and they saved the most of it for the last day. So I I'm afraid I just did not go, knowing that I wasn't going to be there on the best day. Um, and yeah, so that's kind of the short answer is no, I didn't have a chance to take advantage of that. But it is something to keep an eye out for with casino closings. It is required by Nevada law to somehow give back to players all money in progressive meters.
And closing casinos is actually a normal thing. Like Tropicana just closed, Mirage just closed. We constantly have casinos that are being imploded. Excuse me. So it's totally normal.
Yep, that's right. So yeah, I would anytime there's a casino closing, I would keep an eye out for what they're doing with the progressive money. For example, when the Riviera closed, I very aggressively did a promotion there.
Awesome. Our next question comes from Paul. In what ways are casinos better or worse in other countries?
Um, in my opinion, casinos outside of Nevada are rather boring. I think that any casino that has a monopoly or is very heavily government regulated do tend to be boring. And I find this especially true in Europe. The casinos are very clean and well run and well staffed and everything, but there's not much to do in the casino but gamble. If they play music, it's very low and they're just
Uh,
very, you know, what's a good word? Not sanitary, just kind of like a hospital. Very, very, um, yeah, I can't think of the word I'm looking for. But
would that be like structured? Very
no,
structured.
um, some place it's very clean and safe, but not fun. And it's driving me crazy. I know there's a perfect word, but maybe somebody in the peanut gallery can help me out.
If you guys know,
Sterile.
put that in the
Maybe that's the right word. Sterile.
I was thinking sanitary. Would
Yeah,
that
sanitary
be
is another good one. It wasn't quite what I was looking for, but anyway, that's my answer there. So let's move on.
okay? Our next question is also from Paul. Are there versions of the same video poker machine seen in Vegas that are configured to not operate with the Fair 52 card deck in other jurisdictions?
Yes, I know that there are some quirky video poker games in Oregon. I can't remember the names of them off the top of my head, but in lots of places like pizza parlors in Oregon, there's a tiny little room with gaming machines. And some of them will have some video poker games, but they're very weird games. And I tend to think that they don't need to be compliant with the fair probability rules as in Nevada. And I know that when I went to Germany, I saw a machine, a Deuce's Wild machine with a jacks or better pay table. And I thought, wow, this must have like a 40% advantage. And I sat down and played it, and I was just losing, and I was just not getting good cards. And so I, and it was made by a company called Novomatic. And I did some research when I got home, and in Germany, they do not need to comply with the fair card law that we have in Nevada. So the game was just totally gaffed. So I think that there are a lot of jurisdictions that do not subscribe to that law. So be careful when playing video poker outside of Nevada.
And does that apply to other games as well, or is it normally just video poker?
It's normally just video poker. And I think you'd be safe in the big jurisdictions in the US, like Atlantic City and Mississippi, Colorado, like big casinos. But it's just little rinky-dink ones where states that have really bizarre gambling laws where anything could happen.
Okay. Should we see if anyone has an answer to the trivia question?
Okay.
Was it the Tooth Fairy?
Nope.
Nope. That was pretty much the only answer we had for that one. Oh, his dad?
Yes, his father. Who gets credit for that?
Gene.
Good job, Gene. Okay, let's see if any. I'm going to ask her. Let's see. Let's go on to the next one. I'm going to ask an easy one just to feel out the audience if you know anything about Calvin and Hobbes. What was the name of the babysitter?
So if you know the answer, put that in the chat. And our next question comes from Jean, who just got the last one. Today is National Refreshment Day. What are some of your favorite refreshments, adult or otherwise?
I did not know that. Let's see. Refreshments. I like beer. I am trying and have been cutting back on soda. I try to avoid, I don't let myself drink those at home, although I might cheat with a ginger ale once in a while. Let's see. I like I like fruit-based beverages, but nothing that's too sweet. Yeah, that's kind of where I am on that. How about you, Heather?
Well, before we go to me, what kind of beer? Like, what kind of beers do you like to drink?
I tend to like the heavier beers, and I there's no particular brands I'm really in love with. I think a good brand that's fairly inexpensive is 805. So that's what I usually get at Costco. Sometimes I'll mix it up with Modelo, but you get a good bang for your buck with 805.
If you can have any beer in the world and it's like a special treat that like makes you just really happy that you get to drink that beer, what kind of beer would that be?
I kind of find beer, as with many things, to kind of fall on a bell curve, and there's no one beer that I can think of that really stands out above the crowd. There used to be one called Red Hook that I liked, and you could find in California, but I just can't find that anywhere anymore. So don't know what happened to that.
Okay. And for those who are watching, if you could put what your favorite refreshment is in the chat, I would love to see that. I drink this certain type of tea every single night. It's lemon ziner, and then I put one squeezed lemon in there, and a tablespoon of honey. I drink it every night. I love it. I love lemonade. Again, it's just lemons, sugar, or honey, and then water, and that's it. So I make it natural. I don't buy it or anything. And kombucha. I like the strawberry kombucha.
Okay. Oh, another thing I like is carbonated water, but I put in a squirt of grenadine to sweeten it up a little.
Oh, cool. Awesome. Okay, so our next question comes from Technic, who says, what do you think about the blackjack side beto bet if the dealer will bust after showing their up card? Does a card counter have enough of an advantage in this game to make it profitable?
There are a number of different side bets that win if the dealer busts. Some of them depend upon the total that the dealer gets when they bust, like it pays most with a 26, and others depend on the number of cards in the busted hand. But I haven't studied the countability of that, but I would tend to think that in a deck rich in yeah, I'm going to have to give you an I don't know on the countability of that. Yeah, so sorry, I can't give you a better answer.
Okay. And then before we go on to the next question, Gene says that there is nothing new with him, but he is trying to beat the heat here in Massachusetts. As someone who has lived in Las Vegas forever, do you have any advice on how to stay cool without an air conditioner?
I am really hot right now, to be honest with you, and we have an air conditioner, but this house just does not get heated or cooled evenly, and my office gets hot. But fortunately, I'm fortunate to have a swimming pool, so I'm in and out of that all day just to cool down. And yeah, if you can go swimming in any way, that is my advice.
Cool. For me, there's several ways you could keep cool. If you have curtains in front of an open window, damp the curtains so they're wet, and then have the air blow in, and that typically cools you down. If you have a box fan, put some ice, like a plastic box of ice in front of the fan, and that will typically cool you down. You could get like a spray bottle and put ice and water in the spray bottle and mist yourself. You could get a wet rag or a towel and then put it around your neck. That typically helps. So
yeah, at Burning Man, I often had a spray bottle with me, and I put a little vinegar in it because the dust at Burning Man was very alkalinic, and the vinegar helped to neutralize that. But yeah, just cool. A simple spray bottle is a good idea.
Yeah. One more question. This is from Nathan, who says, if you could see other people's cards in Ultimate Texas Hold'em and you see two aces, would you still raise your ace high?
If you can see other people's cards in Ultimate Texas Hold'em, you see two aces. So I take it what he's asking is he has one ace, and he knows that two other players each have one ace. I don't know how you would know this, but I would either make a small raise or just check, knowing that two other players have aces as well. So yeah, that's the best I can do with that one.
Okay. We'll do one more question and then we'll see who has the answer to the trivia question. Do you have an opinion on who currently teaches the best blackjack tournament strategy?
I can't think of anyone out there who really actively teaches that. I personally like Stanford Wong's book. In fact, let me get it. Where is it? Yeah, here it is. This right here is a good book on the topic. It goes over the basics really well. It is with anything there's a trade-off between simplicity and power, and this errs on the simplicity side. And I have always used just the basic advice that is given in this book. And he runs through a lot of examples of tournaments that he's played. And even though this book is pretty old, let's see, last printing was in 1997. It still holds true really well. So that is my advice there.
Awesome. Okay, let's see if anyone has an answer to the trivia question. Was the answer Susie?
No, Susie was another character in the show, but she was not the babysitter.
Okay. No one else has any answers for that. So what
yeah,
was
I think I'm going to have to nix the Calvin and Hobbes trivia then, because I seems like you guys just don't follow the comic strip, which was outstanding. I don't know how you guys got through life without Calvin and Hobbes, but there's lots of books of the old comic strips out there. Highly recommend just getting one of them. And once you get one, I bet you buy all the other ones. So, but the answer to that one was the babysitter is Rosalind, and Susie was Calvin's frenemy, which is a combination of friend and enemy. So there you go. So I guess it's just going to be gambling questions the rest of the show.
I have some Washington State trivia questions if you want to do those.
Didn't we do that before? What was the trivia last live stream?
Was it hike, mountain climbing?
Okay, yeah. Well, yeah, I can do Washington trivia. That was in a recent newsletter, so I'm going to ask anyone who read it to recuse themselves, but maybe we can take turns and I'll start. Okay. How about the world's largest building measured by volume is in Washington? Where is it and what is it for?
If you guys know the answer, put that in the chat. And while we are waiting, our next question comes from V Panda, who says, what do you think about the new Rio in Fontainebleau?
I haven't been in the Rio for a while, so I can't comment on that. And the Fontainebleau I went through once, I think the day after it opened, and it's also kind of a very clean yet sterile kind of place. I think it's still, most of the retail and restaurant space wasn't open yet, so maybe it's a little better now. But it's certainly very big. It has a very high ceiling. It's very well lit. It's not as as obnoxious as your typical Las Vegas casino with tons of chandeliers and ugly carpeting and distractions, all over the place to look at. No, it's more, it's more sleek. And yeah, I didn't have any business interaction there, so I don't have much to report. But yeah, that's about the best I can do with that one.
Okay. And then before we go on to the next question, Chris says that his favorite drink is Arnold Palmer and apple cider vinegar with honey and hot water. That sounds interesting. And Gene says his favorite drink is Bud or Coors or, I hope I said that right, a nice smooth white wine chilled, or a vodka tonic with lemon and or lime. or a diet root beer.
Okay. Why you like all these awful cheap beers, I don't know, but each some.
Oh man. Um, I Our next question comes from Dalbrickson, who says, because casino rules on tips vary, is it worth tipping in cash when possible?
I take it you mean as opposed to a chip. Um, I'm not sure I understand the question. Maybe you can give me an example uh, of of where the rules varying make a difference, but it's my understanding that it doesn't really make any difference. Like I think if a player tipped in cash at a table game, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Heather, but I think the dealer would just change the cash for a chip and then put the chip in the tip box. So it's
That's
like tipping
correct.
the chip.
Yeah, that's correct. Dealers cannot accept cash as a tip, so they would have to change it up into a chip and then drop it. And then the cocktail waitresses, they collect chips as well, and then they just change their chips at the end of the night. So they'll go to the cage and just get cash for chips, so it's not a big deal.
Yeah, I will say that if there was a particular dealer you wanted to tip and you did not want him or her sharing it, you could always like put it in a happy birthday card and seal it in the envelope, and um, you just might like say, "Oh, happy birthday," and wink, and here's a card for you, and they get the cash, and maybe they're supposed to report it and put it in the tip pool, but I bet they would not.
Um, if you are going to do that, tell the dealer to open the card when they get home, because
Mhm.
the casino policies and procedures say that you can't accept that.
They would say you can't accept a card.
No, you can accept a card. You can't accept cash, like under the table to cash type of a thing.
Hmm.
So if you tell them like, hey, don't open the card until after you get home, that might bypass it.
Hmm. Yeah, when I was a bigger player, I would tip hosts, which you're not supposed to do, but I would always put it in an envelope or something, and I would tip sports bets, and never once did they say they couldn't accept it. So,
Um, okay, so we'll do one more and then we'll see if anyone has an answer to the trivia question. Technic says, I read where one casino was bought out and they will have to pay out all of the progressives. What is the best way to take advantage of the situation?
you have to read carefully how they're giving out that money and adjust your and decide from there if it's worth playing. When the Mirage closed, they did it mostly. It's my understanding that they did random drawings to give out the money, and and when the Riviera closed, they also had a drawing where you earned entries according to how much play you had, and I played video poker like crazy and earned a whole ton of points, and I still didn't get called, which goes to show you that when it's a point-based thing, it can draw in a lot of very heavy play. So just because a casino is closing and giving away some progressive money doesn't necessarily make it good. Of course, it really depends on how much competition there is for that money, and there might be a lot. So that's about the best I can do with that one.
Yeah. From my understanding, it's the casino manager's decision of how they want to give out the money. So they could give it out as a cash prize or they could give it out as swag with the casino's like logo and everything on it. But every casino is different because each casino manager makes that decision.
Okay, let's move on.
Okay, let's see if anyone has an answer to the trivia question. Is it the fish market in Seattle?
No, and that's not like one single building, but it's definitely not that.
How about the Smithsonian?
Nope, didn't even know they had one. And by the way, we're talking about Washington State here, not Washington, D.C.
Correct. An airplane hangar?
Yes, it is an airplane hangar. I'll give you half credit for that. Does anyone else know where this airplane hangar is?
Ooh, if you guys know where it is, put it in the chat. I don't see anyone saying where
I
it
think
is.
if they knew, they would have said it. So it's the Boeing aircraft hangar in Everett, Washington. So I'll give Dal Brixton half credit. And Heather, you can ask the next question.
Okay, so the next question is, which town in Eastern Washington has been called the town so nice they named it twice?
I think I know.
Yeah, you know.
I'll put it in the private chat.
Okay. Let's see. Yep, you're correct, Mike. Okay, so let us answer some more questions from you guys while we're waiting for you to put your answers in the live chat. And the next question that we have is, it's not a question so much as a statement. Jean says, I just stay in the shade with the fan on. My house doesn't get direct sun due to trees, and I like the idea of wetting the drapes, or a swamp cooler box fan is another idea. And then James says, talking about craps, what is your opinion on betting the pass line and when the point is established to lay the point, i.e. $25 pass point becomes a 6 and then you lay the 6 for 60?
I'm not big on hedging bets. I think that if you're in the casino, you're supposed to be gambling. So hedging bets just gives the casino an advantage both ways. So, and lay the point, i.e. 25-cent pass point, 6 and lay the 6. I don't remember off the top of my head the house advantage on laying the 6 or the 8, but I tend to think that it's like 2.5% or more. So I'm afraid I can't endorse that strategy.
Okay. Our next question comes from V Panda, who says, what casinos give the best comps to video poker players?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I'm afraid I don't have a very good answer to it. I can tell you that here in Las Vegas, a lot of locals like the what's it called? The Casino in Paradise.
Hard Rock?
No.
Tuscany.
No.
The Silver Sevens.
No. It's driving me crazy. Why can't I think of it?
Westin Carcerina?
No. Nope. 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 Maybe it's on Harmon.
Okay.
Nope. The Ellis Island. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Locals love that place. They're said to comp very well. I've also heard good things about the South Point, but I don't get as much buzz about them as the Ellis Island. But locals everywhere complain that casinos really just do not seem to like video poker players, and they're being really stingy with them.
Stingy,
so sorry,
as
wasn't
in,
a very good answer, but it's the best I can do.
When you say stingy, are you talking about a low RTP?
I'm talking about lower pay tables and lower mail
comps. Okay, gotcha. Okay, so our next question comes from Delbrickson, and it's for me. Thank you. Is that a spiked chain collar? I'm not sure because of the resolution. Yeah, it's spiked, spike and studded. I decided to go goth today.
All right.
Okay. Our next one is from Stista. Are there any side bets that you personally actually like to play?
Nope,
That was
absolutely
fast.
not. Side bets are sucker bets, and I stay away from all of them.
So they're sucker bets. They have a bad house edge, but have you had it like fun playing one? Is there any side bets that you
don't know
really
that I've
enjoy?
ever bet one, so I don't really find gambling very fun anymore. So, um, I mean, I will play once in a while, like if a friend is in town, but I just do not make side bets. I think that if I do, I should put a big red S on my forehead for sucker. I just think that it just identifies me as an idiot. So, I mean, my apologies to the players out there who like them, but they are lousy bets, and you just will not see me making them.
Okay, so I got a question. They're lousy bets because they have a high house edge. So what house edge would you consider to not be a sucker bet?
I don't know exactly where I draw that line, but they're all above that line. Like I'll say like 1%, but they're all way over 1% in house advantage.
Okay. So let's end the trivia question, which was which town in Eastern Washington has been called the town so nice they named it twice? And Richard Armstrong got the answer. It is so give yourself a point. And then, Mike, what is the next Washington State trivia question do you have?
The next one is what are the 5 largest cities in Washington in population?
So if you know the answer to that, put that in the chat. And while we are waiting, our next gambling question comes from Andy, who says, what are your thoughts about beating the blackjack shuffle machines in the long term? Greetings from Belarus.
The shuffling machines do a good job, so I have no easy advice on ways to beat them. I do know that some of them are not perfect, and maybe if they don't do a good shuffle, maybe a clump of cards will make it through the shuffling machine, in which case you can shuffle track. Sometimes maybe there's like a bent card or something that maybe will cause the shuffler to make a certain sound when it's near the top, things like that. Exploiting shuffling machines is not my area of expertise, but I do know that a small number of people do that, and I'm not exactly sure how. So sorry, that's about the best I can do with that one.
Okay. Our next gambling question comes from Northern Jim, who says, at a local casino, when playing 2 spots at face-up highgow, the second spot has to follow the house way. This seems like a big disadvantage for the player. Am I correct? We literally see the dealer's cards.
Yeah, that is a big disadvantage. Yeah, that's a huge disadvantage. I don't know why they would have that rule, but I would absolutely not play 2 hands if they had that rule, and it might make for a good ask the wizard question to figure out exactly how much it costs the player, but it would also take a lot of work. But I'll put that on my mental list of project ideas. But for now, do not play a second hand if they have that rule.
Okay. And our next question comes from do you generally only use Excel and C++ when programming a game for odds calculations, and why?
Yeah, I think that for any game, it's one or the other. The more simple games I can do in Excel, and um, the more complicated ones that require looping, I use C++. And between those 2 tools, I can do everything. So, um, you know, why mess with what works?
Okay. Our next question comes from Red Rock Matt. In Blackjack, why does the number of decks change the house edge?
I have a whole page about that on my site. And it has a lot to do. The fewer the decks, the better the odds for the player. And again, I wrote a very, very good page about this topic on my website. But with one deck, the doubles are much more powerful because this typical situation is like you double on a 6 and a 5. So you're doubling into a 10 rich deck. Also, the dealer, no, I won't say that. Yeah, I know, and you get more blackjacks with a single deck, and yeah, off the top of my head, that's about I don't really remember, but look in my list of blackjack articles, and I answer this. In my opinion, it gives the best answer to this question anywhere out there. And I list like the top 5 reasons and how much each reason does contribute to the effect of the number of decks.
So they would go to
off the top of my head.
They would go to wizardofodds.com, and then where would they go?
All right, let's just find it so I can tell you exactly. So wizardofodds.com. Then I click.
You got a huge website. You got a huge website.
I know. Then I'm clicking on Advanced Blackjack, View More, and then it's the very first article under Advanced Blackjack Topics, Why the Number of Decks Matters in Blackjack. So as long as I'm there, I'll give a better answer. Scrolling down here. This is such a good page. I mean, I hate to toot my own horn, but
do you want to share the page?
I just told everybody how to find it. Okay. Okay. Here is how much the house advantage is lowered from 8 decks to 1. Here are the reasons. Winning blackjacks paying more winning blackjacks is 0.06%. The effect of standing, it's much more powerful to stand on a hard total with a single deck. So that's 0.43% of it. More effective doubles is 0.27%. Now, 2 things that work against you is the splitting is less effective by 0.125%, and the dealer has a better positional advantage, which works against the player by 0.08%. But of the 0.563% effect, 0.433% comes from the player being more likely to win with a soft total. So 77% of it is that when the player stands, he's more likely to win with single decks, and that has to do with the effect of removal. And for example, if the player has a 10 and a 6 and the dealer's showing a low card, the dealer is just simply more likely to bust. And that's just going to be my simple answer to that one. But again, for more information, just rewind this show and I show you exactly how to find that page.
Fantastic. Our next question comes from Practical, who says, how much money would you need to start your own casino?
For a physical casino, let's say has table games, I'm thinking around, for even like a rinky-dink one, I'm thinking like 20 million, just off the top of my head.
And would that be to build the building, get everything in there, and then as well as supply the money that's in the cage, so that way if people win, there's money to give to them?
I'm assuming you're already buying an existing building.
Mm.
So it's mostly probably refurbishing the building, and you do have to have cash on hand, and just normal expenses of doing business.
Okay. Do you happen to know how much it is to get a gaming license?
I do not. I no, I don't. I think it's like 100,000, but something I don't know, maybe less. Yeah,
Okay.
that question is really kind of out of my area, so I'm really just making educated guesses.
You're guesstimating.
Mhm.
One more question, and then we'll see who has the answer to the trivia. What is your opinion on playing bingo?
I like bingo. Um, it can sometimes be an advantage play. My basic advice with bingo is look for the most effective cards to buy, and do not buy all the extra um, stuff that they try to sell you. Like, do not validate. Um, and when the jackpots are high, I would tend to not play because that tends to draw in a lot of competition. So, yeah, so I recommend playing when the jackpots, especially the cash ball jackpot, is low. And yeah, but even following all this, I still don't claim that you'll have an advantage, but it's a way to, uh, boost your chances. So that's my quick advice there. So yeah,
What do you like better? Do you like the actual bingo that you would play if you're sitting in a restaurant with the pen and paper, or would you like the slot machine bingo where it's like a caveman bingo?
yeah, I always get the machines and play electronically.
Cool.
Um, yeah, I can't dob very fast. So yeah, and furthermore, it gives me a chance to just like read a book or something, during most of the game.
Okay. If you guys have any gambling questions you would like to ask Mike, please put them in the chat, the live chat, and we will answer them in the order that they are received. For the answer to the trivia question, is it Seattle, Seattle Red, Seattle Light, Seattle Dry, Seattle 0%?
That must be some kind of a joke that I don't get. All I'll say is that Seattle was indeed one of the five and the biggest city in Washington. But let's see if anyone else got the other four.
Doesn't look like it. Nope.
Okay. Well, the other four are in order from biggest to smallest: Seattle, Spokane, Tacoma, Vancouver, and Bellevue.
Okay. Sounds cool. What is our next trivia question?
You get to ask the next one.
Oh, I get to ask the next one. Okay. Let me pick a good one then. What? One that you haven't asked. What is the Washington state capital is in what county?
Oh, I was just there. Hmm.
If you guys know the answer, put that in the chat. And then while we were figuring that out, we will answer more gambling questions. But first, Mo says, Heather, you are talking about Keno. Oops, you're right. That's the restaurant game. Well, I got it mixed up. Thank you for mentioning that, Mo. And Mo says also, thank you, Wizard.
You're welcome. Yeah, I just spent 2 full days in Olympia, and I think it's in my head somewhere, but I just can't pull out the name of the county.
Okay. If you think about it, let us know. And then Dalbrixon says, does Ellis Island still have its own brewery?
As far as I know, they do.
Next is from Northern Jim, who says, to count at blackjack, I use high-low on double deck and red sevens on a 6+ decks. Is it worth it, or should I just stick with aces and fives and make my life easier?
You have to decide that for yourself. I would say that if you already know a high low and red sevens, I would probably stick with that. Um, I'm not real big on changing from one system to an or strategy to another. So, ultimately, if you find the high low and the red sevens too difficult, then you probably should switch to the ace five. But if you're really good with those systems, I would keep using them. So that's my quick answer to that one.
Awesome. With counting cards, isn't it the change is so negligible that really what's best is just to make it easy for yourself?
Um, an argument comes up on blackjack card counting forums a lot about is it worth it to go beyond the high low and use something like the omega or the Revere advanced point count or whatever. And in my opinion, I'm favor simplicity, and I think that for probably most card counters, the plus minus is good enough. But if you have such a love for the game and you want to work twice as hard for only like 10% more money, then go ahead and use a more powerful count system that does side counts of aces and um, treats each card like by a different number of points. So, but everyone has to decide that for themselves. But I absolutely am not a card counting snob, and I do not look down on people who use the more simple systems.
Okay. Our next one is more of a statement, and this is from Northern Jim. The Keen's Bounty side bet is horrific. It has a 24% house edge.
Yep, that's barely legal in Nevada. It can't go above 25.
Oh, I didn't know that. So
There's
they
some
actually
things that. Mhm.
they
No,
actually have it set. Sorry.
that is a law that for new games they can't have a house advantage over 25%. But some old games got grandfathered in. Like for example, Keno is not subject to that, and I have seen games with a 99% house advantage in Keno. So yeah, but the King's Bounty is a new bet, therefore must be compliant with that law.
Okay. And then Northern Jim says, meanwhile, the aces upside bet and 4-card poker is only 3%.
Yeah, so good for them, but 3% is still too much for me.
Yeah. Our next gambling question is from Mo, who says, are you close or have a relationship with Anthony Curtis? And what is your opinion on his career?
Oh, absolutely. He published my book, and I've known him ever since I moved to Vegas 23 years ago. And we have had lots of dinners and drinks, and yeah, we're very friendly. So, and he is the king of gambling books. And, he is very picky. He will not publish a, a gambling book that is not accurate. And I almost at the point where I would only trust a Huntington Press book. If you go to a bookstore, most of the books are going to be about some easy way to beat the casino in slots or roulette or craps or games of luck, and they're going to be absolutely worthless and full of lies. Whereas Huntington Press books are more likely going to be, here are very difficult ways to only have a small advantage. So, would you rather know the truth or have an empty promise? So anyway, so I have enormous respect for him.
Awesome. Our next question comes from Northern Jim, who says, if the progressive at Ultimate Texas Hold'em is 400,000 and costs $1, would you play it? And what would be the threshold?
Well, I don't have an answer off the top of my head, and there are different progressives in that game. So yeah, frankly, my short answer on that is I don't know.
Okay, let's see if anyone has an answer to the trivia question. Dal Brixton says George County. It is not George County. and no one else has an answer. So the answer to the trivia question, which was the Washington state capital is in what county? And that county is Thurston.
Whoops.
Oh,
Okay. All right, it's my turn for the next one.
yes.
What are the 5 Cascade volcanoes in Washington?
So if you guys know the answer to that, put that in the live chat. Also, if you have any questions for Mike, get them in right now. We have 10 more minutes left before we end this live stream. So speak now or forever hold your peace, or at least wait until our next live stream. And our next gambling question comes from Lucky, who says, this isn't really a question, but I had a friend had security ask her to leave because she was cheating, i.e., winning too much. She was playing IGT, Cleopatra, 2 slots. You're just pushing the button, right?
I don't know what she was up to. Casinos should know to not make players leave just because they're winning too much. Those should be the players that you treat the best, hoping that they lose that money back. I tend to think that they perceived she had was doing some kind of an advantage play. What it was, I don't know, but I just don't have enough information to answer better than that. But you can absolutely beat slot machines by careful game selection. And I talk about this in my book. So, and casinos have had people arrested for just pressing buttons. For example, there was the double up bug where players that knew how to activate this bug to basically switch denominations and get a winning hand on a low denomination and get paid on a high denomination for the same cards. They were just pressing buttons, but they knew exactly what buttons to press to activate this bug. And the casinos had, I think I'm allowed to say this, there was a player named Andre Nestor, who, I think that was his name, as he was doing this in Pennsylvania. And they arrested him, and he did like at least a month in jail in Pennsylvania. And his argument was, look, I was just pressing buttons. I was obeying every casino rule. But they had him arrested, and he filed a lawsuit after that against the casino, and he lost. It was absolutely viewed as cheating. So just pressing buttons is not necessarily a excuse.
Okay. And then every state has different laws on what they consider cheating and what they don't consider cheating, right?
Yep.
And in Las Vegas, do they consider cheating only if you use an additional electronic device, or can you be considered cheating in other ways?
There's all kinds of ways to cheat, and they don't need to list all of them.
Really?
Oh, yeah. So if the player is not supposed to use information that isn't freely given to him by the casino, and, for example, the double up bug, there wasn't a rule specifically against doing what he did, but he was arrested and it held up in the courts. So, there you go. It's like, you don't, it's not, the casinos in the state do not need to list every single way to cheat for it to count. So
what is the average jail spent? How much do they normally spend time in jail?
I think that if someone were cheating like in a serious way, like say using a computer, and this is getting out of my area, but I tend to think that would get you around 6 months.
Okay. Because with Phil Ivey when he was trying to cheat on baccarat. They didn't send him to jail. They just wanted, I think it was like $1 million back or something.
Yeah, they didn't have a strong enough case to say he was legally cheating, but they did have a strong enough case that they should get the money back, and they won. So, which I would say that is a case of a lighter shade of cheating. So.
Okay. And then Lucky wants to mention too that it was a wholesome 65-plus-year-old grandma playing the Clio machine.
Yeah, again, that shouldn't make any difference. I have a feeling she was up to something and you're just hearing her version. But again, I don't have very much information, so I'll have to answer as best I can with what little you told me.
Okay. Our next question comes from Technics, who says, how important is it to know the difference blackjack basic strategies based on the number of decks in a blackjack game?
It's very unimportant. If you know just one of them correctly, that will take you through any set of blackjack rules just fine. It's only if you really, really want to be an aficionado of the game that you should learn, multiple strategies. And the reason is because they only differ in very borderline situations. For example, with an 11 against a dealer ace, if the dealer hits a soft 17, you should double that. But if the dealer stands on a soft 17, you should hit on it. But it's a very borderline play. And if you make a mistake on that one, it's not going to cost you very much.
Okay. Our next question comes from Candid Flynn, who says, what is your favorite Vegas high-end casino for your overall experience?
I like the Wynn. I don't think that it's significantly better than the other high-end casinos, but what can I say? I like the look of the place, and I've always been treated very nicely there. And to be honest, I might be a little bit biased because they have hired me to do projects from time to time. But there you go. That's where my heart is. It's with the Wynn.
So when I first read this, I thought they were saying, what is your favorite high-end casino experience? And immediately my brain went into, I like using the bathrooms. Because if you go to the high-end casinos, it's literally like gold and marble, and it's like the most impressive bathroom you have ever seen in your entire life. And it's just, I that's my favorite. So if that question was asked to you, what is your favorite high-end casino experience?
Yeah, I largely will judge a casino by how nice their bathrooms are.
Yeah. And then at the Wynn and also at the Rio, they'll have like a person sitting there with a tray, and it has all these like things you can use or take, and just really interesting.
Now, I don't like it when that person hands you a paper towel after you wash your hands, because then I feel that I'm getting shaken down for a tip. So I can get a paper towel myself. But otherwise, yeah, I never get those things, so it doesn't really matter to me.
Okay. When Northern Jim asked his question, he was actually wondering at what payout the wizard would bet $8 progressive.
Yeah, I understood what you were asking, and it all depends on the progressive. There was a progressive in Face Up Payout Poker about a year ago that went very positive with like an enormous player advantage, and it was worth like $100 an hour as a play. The jackpot was so big, and that was a situation where I did play it a little bit, and there I did bet the side bet because it was extremely good. So that was an exception to the rule of never playing side bets. But again, on all over my site, if there's any progressive side bet, I usually say at what point does it turn positive. But there are several different progressive bets that I've seen in Ultimate Texas Hold'em, and I don't want to slow down the show by looking at all of them.
Okay. And then when we were talking about Lucky Legion and him talking about the grandmother who was playing the Cleopatra machine, Jay wanted to make a couple comments, and his comment was consult attorney Bob Nearson. Okay, and he's a frequent guest on Gambling with an Edge, and you have to prove to the court that what you did wasn't cheating.
I tend to think Bob is not going to take the case if they politely told her to not play. If they backroomed her, then he would probably be very interested in the case. But casinos are basically allowed to make people stop playing. And so I kind of disagree with that advice. I tend to think that Bob is not going to, he might take the call, but I tend to think that he's not going to find it worth taking the case. But anyway, I see it's 4:00. I believe, did anyone get the volcano question?
I didn't see any answers for that.
Okay, that's kind of sad, but the 5 Cascade volcanoes in Washington are Mount Rainier, Mount St. Helens, Mount Adams, Mount Baker, and Glacier Peak, 4 of which I'm proud to say that I have climbed.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. Which one haven't you climbed?
The only one I didn't climb is Glacier Peak.
Okay.
So let's talk about the next show. Let's see, today is July 25th. How about in 2 weeks, August 8th?
Sounds good.
Okay.
So if we didn't get to your question, please join us on August 8th, where we will get to your question. And thank you so much, Mike. It's always a pleasure doing these with you.
Yeah, thanks, Heather. And thank you, audience, for attending and all your questions. And I'll see you in 2 weeks.
Sounds like fun.
Okay,
Talk to you later. Bye.